Shalom Hevre. This is Richard Solomon, your mentor, instructor if you like, in Maui. And I have decided to do a webcam recording of an answer to one of the questions that you have posed. This was the question that Michelle asked. What I wonder about is what kind of verbal coaching can my teachers use to be sure the class does not get out of hand? They regularly check on the small groups to check their progress and answer any questions, but at times the conversation gets heated or sidetracked. What kind of verbal cues should I recommend to ensure the students stay on task? Okay, let's first talk about verbal cues and then nonverbal cues. Well, the teacher, of course, can, before an activity goes on, let students know that she will be letting them know when they are on task or when they are not following instructions, or when they are getting too loud, or whether they are using appropriate or inappropriate language. And she can just develop her own verbal cues, such as by saying L, which may have something to do with the use of appropriate language. She may say OT, which might refer to being off task. However, I would suggest the use of nonverbal cues. I love nonverbal cues. What nonverbal cueing does, it gives students a sign while they are working in groups as to whether they are or are not on task. So some of my teachers have actually placed something that looks like a traffic light, or if you like, you can make 3 different colored circles. Green suggests students are on task. Yellow suggests that they are on and off task, and that this is a warning or a caution that the conversation may end. And of course, red means, the signal means that classroom discussion must end, either in small group or in a whole group. Now, some teachers use a hand signal, such as thumbs up means that things are going well. W, like this, means here's your warning. And if you don't get back on task, the conversation will end. And of course, a cue like this, that would suggest that the conversation terminates. Now, there are all kinds of ways that you can use verbal cueing. I should say nonverbal cueing. And these are just some suggestions. Another way to verbally or non-verbally cue students as to whether they are on task or not is for the teacher to walk around, monitor conversations in small groups, and either give them signals as to whether they are on task or not, or truly intervene and let them know they are on task or they are not on task. Now, you probably know that I'm very much in favor of the use of visual cueing. And if you happen to turn to the chapter on pages, in the toolbox on pages 156 to 163, which is something we'll be getting to later, this is a chapter devoted to managing student behaviors, and in that chapter, in that particular chapter, if you read it, we'll talk about visual cueing to manage student behaviors, and you would basically inform students at the beginning of class that 1 has certain meaning, this one finger has certain meaning, 2 has another meaning, 3 has another meaning, and 4 has another meaning. So I strongly believe in the use of visual cueing and not necessarily using language as a vehicle to help teachers monitor and control and manage student behaviors. Now I want to point out one other thing. If you turn to page 70 and 71, which I'm doing right now, in our book, you see that we have a variety of different whole class discussion procedures. These whole class discussion procedures are great ways to organize student conversation so that students do not talk on top of each other and so that students know that they have a chance to be heard. In the numbers method or procedure, teacher raises a question, students raise their hands and indicate whether in fact they want to talk, and the teacher simply identifies who speaks first, second, third, fourth, etc. Students do not necessarily feel badly about waiting their turn. They just want to know that they have a turn. And the teacher can change the order as to who goes first or second or third or fourth, etc. During a classroom discussion. The use of a discussion ball is also really fun. What the teacher does is teacher takes out a ball, raises a question, invites students to think about it, and students raise their hands, indicating who wants to answer the question. The teacher then politely hands or tosses the ball to that student. The student then answers the question, and the student can return the ball to the teacher, and the teacher can then give the ball to another student. Or if the students are mature enough, they can politely pass the ball to another student whose hand is up, and that student will have a chance to speak. I also love paraphrase passport for group discussion. This means before you can speak, you must accurately paraphrase the statement of another student. You cannot go and speak without paraphrasing. You're the teacher is a fun activity to do. What happens in this situation, the teacher speaks first, raises a question, and invites students to go and speak. Teacher selects one of those students whose hand is raised, and the teacher says, "Okay, Michelle, you're the teacher," and Michelle speaks. Michelle then speaks about her thoughts, and she becomes the teacher and then selects the next student. So each student becomes a teacher. Community round robin, item number 6 on this list, on page 71, means that students are placed in a discussion circle and each student is given an opportunity to speak on an issue that the teacher poses. Students are permitted to take notes on what others have spoken, and they move either in clockwise or counterclockwise order, and each student is given the floor, so to speak his or her mind. The last one I want to talk about is group discussion with a timer. That's item number 9 on page 72. And in this situation, each student is given a time in which to speak. Let's call it 90 seconds. So in this case, a student will have 90 seconds to speak. He or she can speak less than 90 seconds, or more if the teacher wants to allow longer duration of speaking. But each child is given an opportunity to speak according to a certain time limit. Now, I just thought of the fact that I forgot item number 3, group discussion with talking chips. This is very interesting as well. So here you have all your students placed in a circle, if you will, or even in rows if you if that's the way you're set up, or in cooperative groups. Each student is given a talking chip. It could be a poker chip, could be a pencil, whatever, pen, and they place that talking chip on their desk, in the front of their desk if they want to speak. And the teacher, here's how it works. The teacher poses a question. Teacher says, whoever wants to speak, just take your chip and put it at the front of your desk. The teacher then may use the numbers procedure and invites students to speak who have their chips at the front of their desk. And when a child is finished speaking, he or she simply takes the talking chip and brings it back to the back of the desk. So here are a variety of ways that teachers can help students monitor their conversational behavior. Some of them are verbal cues, some of them are nonverbal cues, and some of them are structured by the nature of the discussion procedure they're using. One last comment to make. Please notice that what we have done here is we have used a webcam recording as a vehicle to answer questions. I'm sharing this with you now because this is another tool that you could use with your teachers as a modality in which to do teacher training. Please consider this as one tool in your repertoire to mentor and develop your staff. Shavua Tov.